house, but a very good friend of mine, very good friend of mine, and he will be speaking with us this morning on the SQUID race. Yeah, and I'll let him, explain a little bit more about that. Let's put our hands together for Matt Bird.
Thank you, my friend. Good morning. It's great to see you. Good morning. It's great to be back with you at New Covenant House. Who have I met before? These guys. And I can see lots of new faces. Lots of new friends to make. Well, as you can probably hear, I'm not from around here. I live in central London in the UK, and also now I live in a little place called Noto in Sicily in Italy. So I'm learning Italian. Any Italian speakers here? Oh, one or two. I'd love to practice with you afterwards. But it's great to be here. I just wanted to say before I get going on SQUID races, I wonder where that came from, just to introduce myself a little bit more. So as I said, I live between London and Sicily. And when I'm not preaching like this, which I love doing, and have the privilege of doing all around the world, I run a global charity called Neighbour. And we support local churches like New Covenant House to love their neighbours in the community even better than you already are. I'm not going to say more than that, but if you scan that code, and I did update it, but if you scan that code, there'll be a choice up there about Neighbour, and you can click on there, you can check out our website. When I'm not preaching like this or running Neighbour globally, I'm coaching. I love seeing other people succeed. And one of my favorite programs I run at the moment coaches people to write their book in 100 days. I believe that everybody has a book in them. And if I can write books, I've authored 16 books. If I can write a book and I was in remedial English at school, you certainly can. There's one enthusiast here. Who believes they've got a book in them? Anybody? There's a couple of people here. What about over this side? Anybody got a book in them? Yeah, no, only one. Just anybody else here? Oh, I can see some more. Let me just ask that question again. Who believes they've got a book in them? Okay. Don't waste your time trying to do it by yourself. The best way to succeed is to work with somebody who's done it before. The best way to succeed. So the thing I love more than anything in my coaching work is helping other people write the book that is within them within 100 days and then see it published to the world. So if any of you are interested in that or any of my other coaching programs, you can WhatsApp me. Click on the WhatsApp symbol. Just send me a little note. Matt, I'm interested. If you want to read any of my books, click on the little thing. Check out on Amazon. All 16 of my books are there. Kindle, paperback, hardback. You can check it out. And apart from that, I just love to keep in contact with people. Anybody here likes to keep in contact with people? Okay, so click on the little Instagram thing there if you haven't already. I know I've got many friends here. Click on there, let's follow each other, let's message. And because you never know what God might do through a relationship. Do you believe that? Yes. For me, the Bible is not a book about religion, but it's a book about relationships. And how God connects people for purpose. On purpose, for purpose. And I really want to encourage you today, be open to new relationships. Because through new relationships, new opportunities come. Anyway, that's a little bit about me. I'll leave it there. Scan the QR code, click some buttons, let's be in contact. So today I've been asked to speak about the SQUID race. So I just want to ask, who has watched SQUID games? I know we're at church, but you can admit this. I know they go around trying to kill each other. Come on, just hold those hands high. So there's a few people who haven't. Okay, for those people who haven't seen the Netflix series, SQUID Games, it runs something like this. That 456 people who are down on their luck financially are recruited to play children's games in order to win a prize of 45.6 billion South Korean won. That relates to about $38 million. If you happen to be down on your luck, would you be tempted? Yes. I thought you might be. I'd be tempted. But in Squid Games, they're not just playing for $38 million. They're actually playing for their lives. Because each game leads to an elimination that is kind of somewhat terminal. Somewhat. The English always understate things. It's just the English way of saying it. And through the program, you see people build alliances together, relationships together. You see, as those relationships are put under pressure, the strain and the betrayal and the dedication and loyalty, all wrapped up into one. There are so many themes in Squid Games that I think are quite interesting. But I've been asked this morning to speak about the Squid races. Squid races. I think there are a number of things that I would like to draw from this morning. I'll read the Bible in a minute, don't worry. I know some of you are getting uncomfortable. He's 5 minutes in, he's not read from the Bible yet. You can relax. You can relax, the Bible's coming. But it's in terms of context. There are a number of themes that I want to draw out of Squid Games to relate to us and the last 2 years we've been through. One of the themes of Squid Games is financial hardship. People are willing to risk their lives because they're desperate. Desperate. I don't know if anybody here, I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, I don't know if anybody here has experienced what it is like to be financially desperate. There may be some people today here who are financially desperate right now. I was with a friend this year, and they're financially desperate. They've been out of work for a long time. All their financial reserves are gone. The debts were mounting and mounting and mounting. And one evening they sat with me and said, "Matt, I have a plan B." And that plan B involved an act that they would take which would make a terminal difference in their lives. That is the level of desperation that financial hardship can take a person to. The other theme I want to draw from Squid Games, races as we're calling it, is threat to life. In the last couple of years, we've seen lots of threat to life. We probably all know people that have lost their lives. I have a sister. I like to call her my little sister. She's called Lizzie. She's 2 years younger than me. And over the last few years, she was diagnosed with cancer. And I have a mum who's, late 70s. And when everybody was isolating from each other, my elderly mother in her late 70s lived with my sister because she lives alone. Small home. She lived on an inflatable mattress at the side of the bed. My late 70-year-old mother. She slept there every night for 6 months, nursing and caring for my sister as she received chemotherapy and radiotherapy. This was a threat to life. I thank God that my sister and the medical treatment she received has enabled her to overcome this threat to life. But it's not always like that, is it? It's not always a good story. My sister's life is saved, but my sister cannot walk to the end of the street and back now without having 2 days to recover afterwards, because the treatment she received has so damaged her lung capacity. You know, over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of threat to life. I don't know if any of you know people that have died. I don't know if any of you are wrestling right now with medical conditions. Perhaps nobody else in this room knows about them. Perhaps lots of people in this room knows about them, and they're praying for you. But a threat to life is very real. And the other theme I want to draw from Squid Games, Squid Races, as we're calling it, let me call it relational pressure. So economic hardship, threat to life, relational pressure. I mean, these have been a challenging couple of years, haven't they? And marriages come under pressure. Friendships come under pressure. And when the pressure's on, sometimes we kind of draw closer to other people, don't we? And sometimes when the pressure's on, it pushes us apart. I have a friend, been married for 20 years, children, and in the last year, that marriage has ended. The relational pressures of what we've been through are huge. And it's in this context today that I want to speak about the race that we are all in. It's not Squid Games. It's not even really Squid Races. But each of us has been called to run a race, haven't we? And I want to read from the Bible, conveniently in my pocket. I remember the times that used to be a big black floppy thing. I'm so pleased it's a little pocket-sized item nowadays. I want to read, as you could probably imagine, from Hebrews chapter 12, verses 1 to 3. But I want to read this not in a vacuum of doctrinal nuance and preciseness and absolute clarity about everything. I want to read this text within the context of some people facing economic hardship, of some people experiencing a threat to life, of some people here today living in huge relational pressure and tension. Because this is the reality of life. And I want to read these words within that setting. And then I'd like to, if it's okay with you, I'd like to just to simply encourage you. Anybody want to be encouraged? Yes. Okay, and the rest of you, why are you here? Can I just ask that question again? Does anybody here today want to be encouraged? Yes, okay. Still one or two people uncertain, but hopefully by the end you'll feel encouraged and you'll be able to say yeah. So here we go. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you, me, will not grow weary and lose heart. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? I love it. 3 simple things, and I'd love to pray with some people. If any of you have met me before, I don't travel all this way to come and just give you some nice, encouraging words. I want to pray with people to receive something from God that's lasting and enduring and empowering and liberating and transforming. Yeah? First thing I want to say is this, that we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. Now, here, we've just read through a chapter where there's numerous kind of historical heroes of the faith. But they're not the only people we're surrounded by. Just take a moment and look around you. We are surrounded by people. We are surrounded, literally, come and look around. Don't all look at me, just for a moment. Be distracted. Just look at some of the lovely people around you. We're surrounded by people. And one of the most foundational keys to running the race is not only found here inside, but it's found around us. Because God does not call us to a life of individualism, and I know that's tough in the West because so much of America and the West and the UK is about individualism. But actually, the Bible does not know much about individualism. The Bible is community from beginning to end. God does not call people so much as he calls communities. God called the nation Israel to a private members club. No, he didn't. God called Israel as a nation to be a beacon and a light to other nations. So they might look upon this great nation and think, we want to know their God. God calls tribes within nations. He calls tribes with particular passions and particular interests. God calls families to be baptized. God transforms whole communities of lepers. I don't know if any of you remember that talk I gave here once. God is not into just individuals. He is into a collective journey. He calls us as a tribe, as a nation, as a family, as a church. Because the reality is we cannot run this race alone. We are called to community. There's amazing research out there about the impact of relationships. I never preach without mentioning relationships. You know that by now. The Harvard study of adult development, the longest longitudinal study in history, run now for more than 8 decades. The third director of studies summarized his academic research about this cohort of hundreds of people through their lives, and he said this, 3 words: happiness is love. Happiness is relationships. He observed through this cohort of people through 80 years that those that were happy had relationships. The fourth director of studies, he went on and he said, the quality of your relationships at 50 years old. Now, looking out here, you've all got some good time to go, okay? But the quality of your relationships at 50 years old is the greatest determinator of what? Your health at 80 years old. Not your diet, not your exercise, but your relationships. The quality of your relationships at 50 has the greatest impact upon your health 30 years later. Now, why is this? Why is this? Because God does not call us to flourish and thrive as individuals. We only flourish and thrive in relationships with others. Which is the only commandment of the 10 commandments that comes with a promise. It's the commandment about relationships. Honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land. There's research that shows that the quality of our relationships have a direct impact upon our longevity of life. But it's in the Bible. It's true. It's the way God has built us. We are built for community. We are not meant to run this race in isolation. Amen. There is a great cloud of witnesses around us. We are involved in this community, this church, New Covenant House. You will not succeed on your own. You will only succeed because you are part of a community of others who are running this race with you. Amen. Running this race with you. Stay in the race, my friends, by choosing community, by choosing each other. The second thing I want to draw from is that phrase, fixing our eyes on Jesus. You know, we need to have a target. We need to have a goal. I want to ask you, have you got a written down goal about your pursuit of life and faith? I went away when I turned, I know it's hard to believe, I've had a 40th birthday. In fact, it was 1 or 2 years ago. And I took a day out for my 40th birthday, and I asked someone, Lanray, were you recently? Let's not go there. Some people are quite happy turning 40, and others struggle a little bit. But anyway, sorry, Lanray, I don't want to get distracted. But I asked some of my close friends, hey guys, I'm taking a day out to just ponder life. Will you give me a question? to ask myself as I take this day out, and asked half a dozen friends and had these questions. And as I went into this day out, I thought, I'm going to come out with some kind of like world-changing goal or mission in life. I'm a very driven person, A-type personality. I've always got things I want to achieve. And I was shocked at the end of the day. Because what I came out with was this: a goal to live the great adventure of life with Jesus in all its fullness. It wasn't to write more books or to do more preaching or to change more lives or any of that. It was to live the great adventure of life in all its fullness with Jesus. Whatever I put my hand to, whatever I chose to do, that I would do it big, I would do it large, I would do it for Him, with Him, in Him, through Him. No mediocre life, no monochrome life, no kind of like bland life, no domesticated life. A life of energy, of dynamism, of impact, of all this aesthetic goodness that God has created in the world around us. As you fix your eyes on Jesus, what's your goal? Have you written down a life goal? I'd really encourage you to. One of the things I do through my coaching programs is help people define goals and then achieve them. Yeah, some of them are life goals, but often I say, name a significant goal you can achieve in 100 days. And we take time to define that goal. So it's both aspirational and achievable. So you're working in the stretch zone. You're not working in the comfort zone. This is something I can do, no problem, in 100 days. Or something that I'm setting myself up for that I will never achieve in 100 days. But you're setting up a goal for yourself that's in that stretch zone. So it's not going to leave you kind of sat on the sofa every night watching Netflix, as good as Squid Games is. Do watch it if you haven't. But it's something that's going to get you out of bed in the morning. It's going to be something that keeps you off the sofa at night. It's going to be something that gives you focus and energy and motivation. And you know what, I don't want to go into it too deeply, but part of the uniqueness of my approach is that when we set goals, we don't set them as individuals. I actually get people to set goals in what? Community. Because the combination of the support and encouragement and help you receive from a community, alongside the challenge and the accountability, is so, so powerful. You can always find somebody who'll pat you on your back and say, you're doing great. But actually, the really good relationships we have are with the people who tap us on the shoulder and say, you can do better, and I've got an idea about how you can do it. The people who are going to say, you said you'd do that and you didn't. The people who are going to challenge us and hold us to account. My friends, I want to encourage you today to run this race in community, but also to run this race with a goal, with multiple goals. Fix your eyes on Jesus. Know how you want to live your life with Him. Set milestones along the way for what you want to achieve in your relationships, in your work, in your church, in your community, in the world. Set goals, write them down. Ask others to help you and encourage you and challenge you and hold you to account. That's how we run the race. That's how we run the race. My friends, I want to encourage you today to stay in the race by doing it in community, by fixing your eyes on Jesus, by having a target. And thirdly and finally, and then I will pray, I want you to recognize that it is a race that we are running. It's a race that we are running. And on this race, there are obstacles. There are things that will entangle us. There are things that will trip us up. There will be seen things, unseen things, things we expect to happen. And there will be lots of things that we don't expect to happen. But actually, we are called to persevere, to endure, to keep on going. Do you know what? There's no pain, there's no gain without pain. I know it's a trite thing. But if you want to look after your body, it doesn't come by sitting on the sofa. You need to make some commitment, some sacrifice. It's going to hurt you. This life with Jesus in this race is not, oh, I'm going to heaven, I can sit back and relax. This is good, isn't it? I'm going to earn well, go to the beach lots. This is cool. No. This race is an adventure. It has risks. It has challenges. It has obstacles. It has pitfalls. There are many things that get thrown at us. And I don't know about you, but some people look at your Instagram feed. They think, oh man, travel the world, gliding through life, spending time with friends and preaching here and writing books and coaching people and, leading a global foundation, helping churches love their neighbors better. Wow, what? But the Instagram doesn't show any of us are the challenges. This last year has been one of the years of my life. And it wouldn't be appropriate to put all that on Instagram in reality. But as we're friends, aren't we? We're friends. We're family. There's another side to my Instagram profile. Last year I had a business that failed. It was the most painful thing. The most painful thing. I've had pressures on my relationships. And the last year I felt frazzled at the edges. I mean, for me, the pandemic was the two most productive years of my life. But coming out the other side, I was running so fast that my edges were frazzling. And if I didn't take action, my insides were going to frazzle too. This is a race. And it isn't how Instagram presents it, and I love Instagram. But there is another side to the story. This is a competitive race. We have to push through. We have to jump over. We have to find a way through. We just keep on because we're running for Jesus. I want to show you a little picture to finish with. Can it go up on the screen? Who knows what they are? Yeah, I know, they're a pair of shoes. I know, you're really smart. Anybody else any ideas? AK knows. These are my first pair of shoes. Nice, aren't they? My mum gave them to me a few years ago. And these shoes sit on my studio desk in my workspace. And they sit on that desk for a reason. When I first looked at them, I thought, oh, it's such a shame they're damaged, because the shoe on the left, you can probably just see at the toe, the big toe. Is it the big toe? Anyway, one of the toes. There's actually a little hole, because I've given it so much that it's worn a hole in the leather. I thought, it's such a shame they're spoiled. And then I realized they weren't spoiled, because this is my story, and this is your story. And the reason I keep these shoes on in my studio is because they remind me of a number of things. Firstly, that first steps are important. Yes. First steps are important. And the days when I'm running the race and I don't want to get out of bed, the days I get up and I do not want to make that difficult phone call, the days I get up and there are financial challenges, and the financial challenges come in growth as much as they do in little. They come in success as well as when things are going the other way. The days that things are challenging financially, I look at these shoes and I just think, all I need to do today is to take the next step. Amen. They remind me that it doesn't matter how faltering those steps sometimes are, but that as I run the race, as I learn to walk, that strength comes through trying. Strength comes through pressure. Strength comes through training and learning and self-improvement. These shoes remind me that first steps matter, no matter how faltering they might be. And most importantly in life, it's just so important to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Amen. and to stay in the race. I don't know what these last couple of years have been like for you. I imagine that some of you have faced economic hardship. Maybe some of you are facing that right now. Some of you are probably just rolling in it, I can see. But actually that doesn't solve everything, does it? Because the last couple of years for some of us have been difficult relationally. It's put huge pressure on our relationships. Relationships with friends. Relationships in our marriage. And maybe some of you today are in a difficult place in your marriage. Maybe some of you in this race are facing a health challenge. As I mentioned earlier, perhaps nobody else knows in this room, or perhaps everybody knows and they're praying for you. But you're facing a threat to life. And the simple thing I want to say to you today is this. If I had to sum it up, is I just want to say to you, friends, stay in the race. Stay in the race. You're surrounded by a community of people who are cheering for you, supporting you, and praying for you. But you know what? You'll only experience that if you can be courageous. And courageous means saying, hey, I'm struggling. So you can come in here, sit down, sing, listen to the preacher, pray the songs, and go out and feel like you're all alone in the world. I want to challenge you today. If you feel desperate, don't leave this building without tapping somebody on the shoulder and saying, help. It takes courage to do that. Help in my marriage. Don't leave it till it's too late. Don't leave it until you're at complete breaking point. There is no shame in struggling in your marriage. We are all human. Ask for help. There is no shame in struggling financially. We have all struggled financially. Tap somebody on the shoulder today and say, help. Be courageous. Perhaps you're wrestling. Don't know what happened there. Something funny happened. I'll just carry on. Perhaps you're facing a health challenge and nobody else knows. Today's the day to tap somebody on the shoulder before you leave the building and say help. Say help. My friends, stay in the race. You're surrounded by a cloud of witnesses, a community. Your eyes are fixed on Jesus, and it doesn't matter how pants your faith is, because the Bible tells us it only needs to be that big, and that's all any of us ever need. It's all any of us ever need. Keep putting one step in front of the other. Keep running the race. Stay in the race. Will you stand with me?